In our headlines on this Wednesday, May 21st, here in South Korea. Overseas Korean voters are actively seeking to exercise their civic duty as polling stations enter a second day in over 100 countries, while major presidential candidates here continue their campaigns around the Greater Seoul region. Meanwhile, at the United Nations on Tuesday local time, two North Korean defectors currently residing here in South Korea detailed their troubling tales of rampant human rights abuses across the border in North Korea. U.S. President Donald Trump delves into details about his Golden Dome missile defense shield for the U.S., estimated to cost $175 billion and to be fully functional within his term. Hello and welcome to the Daily Report. The political events here in South Korea in recent times appear to be galvanizing Korean voters overseas to exercise their civic duty, as quite a few travel long distances to cast their ballot for the leader they believe will work to move the nation forward. Our Moon Hye-ryun reports.
Sung Jin-ok, a Korean national living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, drove 4 hours to a polling station in Virginia. Arriving at daybreak to cast her vote, she said that she had never felt such an urgent need to vote in all her 16 years of living overseas.
There is something deeply moving about stamping my vote. I used to think my vote was too small to matter, so I often gave up. But this time, I hope it becomes a vote for real change.
With overseas voting for South Korea's presidential election now underway, Korean nationals across the United States are heading to polling stations in what they describe as a hopeful, even emotional act of civic duty. For many, this election feels more personal than ever.
I hope this election brings us closer together, a society united through democracy.
Meanwhile, others cast their ballots thinking of future generations.
I want our children to grow up in a society where responsible leaders step up.
The overseas voting period began Tuesday and runs to Sunday, taking place across 118 countries, according to the National Election Commission. A total of 258,000 overseas voters registered for this year's election, which is roughly a 14% increase in numbers compared to the previous election. Overseas voters in Asia account for the largest bloc at around 129,000 registered voters, followed by the United States and Europe. When heading out to the ballot booths, voters must bring photo ID. Those who have emigrated or acquired permanent residency must also present proof they remain solely Korean nationals, such as visa documents and permanent residency cards. Requirements for each country of residence are available on the respective embassy or consulate websites. In an effort to improve accessibility for Korean citizens living abroad, the NEC has installed new polling stations, such as those in Lithuania, Estonia, and Luxembourg. Until now, Korean residents in Lithuania had to travel to Poland to vote, while those in Estonia made a 2.5-hour ferry trip to Finland. As the overseas voting window continues ahead of the domestic election period, many voters say they're not just casting a ballot, but expressing their hopes for a better, more unified country. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
Turning now to the latest on the campaign trail, Liberal Party contender Lee Jae-myung is addressing his supporters in the city of Incheon today. I have our political correspondent Shin Ha-young standing by live with details. Ha-young, it's good to have you on. Do fill us in.
I'm currently in Incheon's Gov't district, where Democratic Party presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung has just arrived and has begun delivering speech seeking support from voters here. And he's continuing his campaign in the Seoul metropolitan area for the third consecutive time, this time in the city of Incheon. And before coming to Seoul, he held a rally in Namdong-gu district. Take a listen.
The sea takes in both murky and clean water. Isn't that the spirit of unity in Incheon? Winning in Incheon is what makes it a true victory. Will you help make that happen?
Incheon holds special significance for Lee, as it was a stepping stone in his political comeback after narrowly losing to former President Yoon Suk-yeol in the 2022 presidential election. And Lee won a by-election in Korea-U.S, then became party leader and won the primary to run for president again. And after finishing his rally in Seoul, he will wrap up his Wednesday rallies in Korea-U.S, the constituency he represents in the National Assembly. And Lee is expected expected to thank the people of Gyeonggu for supporting his comeback. He aims to win votes by sharing his economic vision for Incheon, a global gateway city with an airport and port, focusing on logistics and the bio industry.
Hyung, I hear he also shared a few pledges for our furry friends. Do tell us more.
Sure, Sunny. He laid out pet-friendly policy pledges ahead of today's rally. And in a social media post today, he promised to enact the so-called Basic Animal Welfare Act and work to create a government agency dedicated to promoting animal welfare. And he also pledged to reduce pet care costs, especially for veterinary services, by setting standard fees and promoting the expansion of pet insurance. He also addressed the issue of stray cats. Take a listen.
Since more than 25% of people have pets, we need appropriate policies for them. On issues like stray cats, where opinions differ, we should find ways to coexist without causing problems for others.
Additionally, he pledged to prevent animal abuse and abandonment by introducing a policy that bans offenders from owning animals for a set period. That's all for this hour. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Hyung, thank you for that coverage of the Liberal camp. Up next, we turn to the Conservative camp, whose contender Kim Moon-soo continues his campaign in the Greater Seoul region. For details, I have our Kim Do-yeon joining me live. Do-yeon, welcome back. And where are you joining us from today?
Sunny, I'm in Dongducheon City in Gyeonggi-do province, around 50 kilometers from central Seoul. Now, Kim is set to appear behind me in any moment now, and he's making his way over as he started the day in the northwest of Gyeonggi-do and has moved clockwise direction. Now, as he does, he's reminding Gyeonggi-do residents that it was during his 2 terms as Gyeonggi-do governor that the GTX Express Railway system, which connects Seoul and Gyeonggi-do, started, and now he's pledging to expand it even further. Take a listen.
I promise you, I'll make sure anyone can travel anywhere within an hour. I'll deliver a transportation revolution.
Now, as I said, the area he's covering also borders North Korea, with a large portion of the land left undeveloped due to restrictions related to security and the environment. He pledged to lift these to host different institutions and companies to create more jobs in the area.
Also, Do-yeon, I understand Kim remains committed to coaxing his conservative rival into a coalition.
That's right, Sunny. Kim repeated his message earlier in the day. His point continues to be that the merger with Reform Party is his means to change the landscape of the current election, and he's apparently hopeful. Take a listen.
As for a dramatic turnaround, there's candidate Lee Jun-seok, who once served as our party leader and is now running independently. I believe that in the end, he and I will merge our campaigns and that he could play a key role in leading us to victory in this presidential race. I'm hopeful things will work out.
But Lee Jun-seok is still publicly rejecting the idea. Still, the outrage continues. PPP lawmaker Ahn Cheol-soo visited Lee on the campaign trail in an apparent attempt to open dialogue. Momentum is building, though. Former Justice Minister and PPP primary runner-up Han Dong-hoon began campaigning for Kim yesterday, though they haven't appeared together yet. Han made clear that he wouldn't hit the trail unless the party distanced itself from impeached ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol. Now that Yoon has left the party, Han appears to be on board. And add to the distancing, just about an hour ago, PPP interim leader Kim Yong-tae publicly apologized for controversies surrounding former First Lady Kim Keon Hee. After his debate proposal for First Lady prospects was rejected, he urged the DP to suggest their own format, saying vetting should still happen. That's the latest from Dongducheon. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Do-yeon, thank you for that coverage of the Conservative camp. Also on the campaign trail, Reform Party candidate Lee Jun-seok has rejected yet again calls for a coalition by PPP contender Kim Moon-soo. Speaking here in Seoul earlier on this Wednesday, he brushed aside attempts by the main Conservative camp to seek a merger. He currently ranks third in public polls and has shared hopes to see his standing rise after the remaining 2 live TV debates. Later in the day, he headed to Seongnam, where he sat down with students at Gachon University and toured Seongnam Medical Center. At the United Nations on Tuesday local time, 2 North Korean defectors detailed troubling tales of rampant human rights abuses in North Korea and during the flight to freedom. Our correspondent Kim Jung-seok covers their testimonies and more.
The first session of its kind at the General Assembly featured live testimonies from North Korean defectors. Kim Eun-ju shared her story of escape and the trauma she faced.
On our first night in China, my 40-year-old sister was kidnapped, sexually abused, and left on the roadside. Later, my mother, sister, and I, all of us, were sold for only 2,000 won, less than $300. This tragedy is not only my family's story. Many others face the same brutal reality under the North Korea regime.
Kang Gyuri, a relatively recent defector, spoke about many still in the North.
There are still billions of North Koreans who have no access to any information about the outside world, who believe that they have no choice but to live under 3 generations of the Kim dynasty's personality cult.
This point was also highlighted by UN official Ilse Brands-Carries.
The laws carry severe punishments, including the death penalty in some cases. The internet is not available. Similarly, freedom of movement is extremely restricted.
Also discussed were the global security implications of North Korea's human rights violations.
The DPRK is exporting instability and violence to the Middle East and to Europe. And the root cause of this is the human rights violations that the DPRK perpetrates.
Elizabeth Selman, UN Special Rapporteur on North Korean human rights, tied militarization to more exploitation, citing troops sent to Russia.
As the DPRK expands its extreme militarization policies, it exacerbates the extensive reliance on forced labor and quota systems.
North Korea's permanent representative to the UN, Kim Song, rejected the claims, accusing Western nations of politicizing the issue.
It is shocking that such a meeting is convened going against universal will of the international community.
Despite Pyongyang's rejection of the claims, Tuesday's session has once again brought North Korea's human rights situation to the global forefront. Kim Jung-seok, Arirang News.
Here in South Korea on this Wednesday, a 30-member team of South Korean and American officials have begun excavation work to recover the remains of soldiers who died during the Korean War. According to the Defense Ministry here, the latest mission in Mungyong City, Gyeongsang-Bukdo Province, will last 6 weeks. This marks the 16th excavation effort by the two countries since the year 2000, underscoring their continued commitment to their alliance and to the sacrifice of their soldiers. Beyond borders, U.S. President Donald Trump has shared an ambitious and costly plan to protect America from missile assaults. Our Lee Sing-jae has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Tuesday his plan for a missile defense program dubbed Golden Dome. The multi-layered system would allow for U.S. weapons to be put into space for the first time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here in the Oval Office, one of the great places of the world, as we make a historic announcement about the Golden Dome missile defense shield. That's something we want, and Ronald Reagan wanted it many years ago, but they didn't have the technology. But it's something we're going to have. We're going to have it.
The Golden Dome will include ground and space-based capabilities that can detect and destroy missiles at all major stages of a potential attack. Trump said that he had promised the American people that he would build a cutting-edge missile defense shield to protect the U.S. from the threat of foreign missile attacks. However, the ambitious plan also comes with a massive price tag.
I'm also pleased to report that the one big beautiful bill will include $25 billion for the Golden Dome to help construction get underway. That's the initial sort of a down deposit. And we have probably, you're talking about, General, we're talking about $175 billion total cost of this when it's completed.
However, earlier this month, the Congressional Budget Office estimated that deploying and operating just the space-based interceptors of the defense system could cost up to $542 billion over the next 20 years. Still, citing the increasingly sophisticated threats from North Korea, Russia, and China, Trump said the system could be operational within 3 years, as he named General Michael Gutlang, Vice Chief of Operations for the U.S. Space Force, to oversee the Golden Dome project. Lee Jun-seok, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, trade officials from South Korea and the U.S. counterparts in Washington, D.C. opened a fresh round of tariff talks on Tuesday, local time. On the agenda are 6 key matters, including trade balance, non-tariff measures and economic security. Now, this is the second round of technical talks and likely be the last ahead of the political transition here in South Korea as a new government takes office on June 4th. South Korea is seeking lower tariffs, while the U.S. seeks greater market access. The Finance Ministry here will mobilize policy funds to counter U.S. tariff-related trade repercussions. Policy funds totaling 28.6 trillion won, or over $20 billion will be earmarked for affected businesses to stabilize their operations, to diversify their markets, and for their facility investment. Acting Finance Minister Kim Keon-Hee also spoke of a support plan for product-specific tariffs, including those on pharmaceuticals and semiconductors, in the near future. Findings for the first 3 weeks of May show a slump in Korean shipments overseas. According to the Korea Customs Service on this Wednesday, exports from May 1st to the 20th were down 2.4% on year. By destination, shipments to the U.S. market slipped in light of tariff-related repercussions amid a sharp decline in auto exports. Korean shipments to the EU market also lost ground. This latest drop in exports comes after 3 straight months of growth through April. Korea's defense industry is seeking to make strategic strides in strengthening regional security both at sea and in the air, and its efforts are on full display at a regional exhibition. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung files this report.
K-Defense looks to expand its realm to Southeast Asia. The Langkawi International Maritime and Aerospace Exhibition 2025, the largest exhibition of its type in Southeast Asia, kicked off on Tuesday. Among the Korean defense companies taking part is LIG Next One, with the South China Sea disputes propelling Southeast Asian states to strengthen their naval capabilities. LIG Next One is showcasing its Haegum, ship-to-air guided missile defense system, hoping to attract buyers such as the Malaysian Navy. Many officials from other countries such as Vietnam and even Saudi Arabia also showed their interest.
We are currently focusing our promotional efforts on a multi-layered air defense system. In the long term, we plan to expand into unmanned systems, space, cyber, and AI technologies.
Korea Aerospace Industries was visited by the Malaysian Prime Minister. Kai signed a deal with Malaysia in 2023 to export 18 FA-50 fighter jets. And with the very first one expected to be delivered next year, Kai is pushing for the second phase of the procurement project as Malaysia plans to acquire an additional 18 aircraft. The exhibition gave a peek into where K-Defense stands in the global market. European missile firm MBDA had a mock-up of Kai's FA-50 and KF-21 with its own missiles loaded, promoting these to Malaysia. While sharing ideas of how MBDA could cooperate with Kai, the technical executive cited advanced technology and rapid delivery as some of the South Korean defense industry's strengths.
It's how rapidly you can bring those capabilities to market. KF-21 as an aircraft is a fine example of going from a concept phase all the way to something that's actually flying, integrating modern advanced missiles like Meteor on there, and actually doing test firings and maiden flights with it.
Based on the credibility it has earned, K-Defense aims to explore more opportunities in the global defense market, starting in Malaysia. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Langkawi.
Meanwhile, for those of you here, every Thursday evening and sometimes on Tuesdays until the end of June, Capitals Hall offers an outdoor workout event aimed at building a broader sense of fitness. Our Choi Soo-young was there.
As K-pop star Rosie's song Apa트 plays, people start copying the dance moves. This is Seoul Plaza, and right now it's K-pop dance practice time. Following the dancer's lead, everyone enjoys the moves and gets soaked in sweat.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, yeah, we were not expecting to come here, but I've heard the song a lot. I've heard it on the radio and stuff, so it's nice that we can kind of connect to it too, especially because it's in English.
Taking place in the evening under the clear spring sky, the event is particularly popular among office workers.
I love it. I usually don't have much time with my baby to have fun because of work, but thanks to this event, we're having a great time.
The 2025 Seoul Plaza exercising is held every Thursday and some Tuesdays until June 26th, starting at 7 p.m. The events offer fun and easy group workout programs for anyone, whether they are a complete newbie or they just love to exercise. Each session will feature a different activity such as Zumba, yoga class, or cheerleading, so participants can try something new every time. In one corner of the plaza, visitors can also try sports that are hard to find in everyday life in South Korea, such as lacrosse and badminton, which is similar to badminton, but played with table tennis-style paddles. Now in its third year, the event drew around 10,000 people last year. During the event, a coaching program with fitness experts allows participants to get one-on-one advice on posture correction and diet. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Today is Homan on the traditional calendar, which means it is entering the summer. It is hotter than yesterday across the country. Seoul and many areas recorded the hottest morning in May ever. Even during the day, Seoul rose up to 28 degrees Celsius, and with high humidity, it feels like 30 degrees. There will be showers everywhere due to the atmospheric instability during the night. The expected amount is 5 to 40 millimeters. Showers could be accompanied by gusty winds, thunder, lightning, and hail in some areas. Rain will begin again at dawn tomorrow in central areas and from the morning in southern areas. Most of this rain will subside by the afternoon. Tomorrow morning, Seoul will start off at 20 degrees. Daejeon and Gwangju at 21 degrees. Highs will be very similar to today's, with Seoul at 27 degrees, Chuncheon at 25 degrees. Summer-like heat will ease up a bit from Friday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Our panel session is up next, so do stay with us. Thank you for now.